time of the month again, or that time of year again, where AI models and AI agents are like all of the buzz for whatever reason. And then so within that, I want to give my definitive, solid 100% stance on this, which is that AI agents will never come about and be fully utilizable via transformers. Like 100%, that is my stance. I am taking it, I am putting it into words and out into the world. The transformer architecture will never lead to agents in the way that people want them to. Anyone that sells you agents, tries to tell you that agents are here, that you can actually utilize agents in production, that you should be utilizing agents, they're all lying to you, 1,000,000%. Like the number one partnership requests that I get are from agent companies, flat out. Like there's more money surrounding AI agents than anything else, right? It's the biggest pipe dream. It's the part that everyone wants, right? Once that gate falls, then like all heck breaks loose, like on all different angles, right? So everybody was beating and pounding that wall, but they've been pounding the same wall for like 2 years, trillions of dollars. Governments are like at the kitchen sink at it. And we haven't moved the needle. That's the bottom line that I'm going to showcase to you is that in the last 2.5 years, like let's call it 2.5 years, let's call it trillions of dollars of funding. Let's call it like the United States, Europe, and China throwing the kitchen sink at it. Every company in those countries throwing the kitchen sink at it. And I'm going to show you how far we've moved the benchmark in 2.5 years, which is not far at all, right? So this is what we're looking at here, Guerilla LM. And this is my favorite example to point this out within this, released 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, 1.3K stars, released by UC Berkeley. They have nice, like, I mean, here's like all of it, right? Here's the paper, here's how it functions. They have a whole website around it. Like this was the news when this released, right? Because, and like, here's like a whole bunch of, I mean, like all kinds of stuff around this, right? Because this was okay. Like we've solved it. Here's the first LLM model trained to be a agent. Oh, it didn't work. And that's what happened, right? That's why you don't hear about it, because it like I mean, here it is. The problem is that it hallucinates, right? And then so you have that's the biggest problem overall is that when you're dealing with like production environments, you're dealing with like API keys, things that you can't make up, like things that you flat out can't make up. And you can give it. I've said this before on my channel, right? You can give it to as a graph neural network. You can build any framework that you want around this. You don't solve the problems inherent within transformers. Secondarily, like how do I know, like who's this guy, right? Like how do I know what I'm talking about? I'm just, so here's Guerilla LM. Here's my research into AI. It's not like it's not like I researched these things or I didn't research these things and I just stay away from them because I don't know what I'm talking about around them, right? These are just three of my frameworks: multi-agent LLM, MOBA swarm agents, and ant colony swarm agents. I've released more around agents than your company. I have more stars around my agent releases than your company, and I know more about agents overall than your company. It doesn't matter who your company is, and then so unless you're Guerilla LM and you work for Microsoft. And so within that, essentially, I have a good understanding within this, right? I have taken this apart, put it back together again, and that should tell you something, right? Like I took it apart, put it all back together, and then I abandoned this part as part of like I don't think there's profit in it. Like and that's been my stance for 2 years. Like cool. Like other people can play in this playground. Like go at it. You can see like the like I don't like being in this space, right? Like this is a space that I personally stay away from because I know it's not profitable and I know there's no gains to be made within it, right? So like the next thing that I want to showcase with you, like the third kind of like a realistic, tangible example I want to show you, and then I'll dive into like kind of the physics behind all of this, right? But so we'll start off here with this Atlantic article. So I want to start off here. Chatbots are cheating on their benchmark tests, and then so if you don't know this, it's 1,000,000% true, right? And like across the board, you can't trust benchmark tests on anything because models are trained on them. I'm going to show you that. So remember, right? Like benchmark tests when it comes to AI are like as overinflated as they possibly can be, right? Like plain and simple. Just over the top across the board. And I want you to keep that framing in mind, because let's now look at the benchmark results regarding agents. And then what I want you to pay attention to, none of these other ones don't matter. This Gaia subset is what matters, right? Because these ones are just like how well did the models do on math, and how well do they do on simple Q&A, like Q&A reasoning problems, which we know these so these two benchmarks are a part of this, right? Like every LM model at this point is trained on their data, as you can see. Like it's just like, I mean, like these are the ones that are scoring low are older models. Like it's kind of the bottom line, or they're JSON based models where they don't get to be trained on this specific data set. Like that's all you see down here, right? And it's very, very clear and very apparent. It's either an older model or it's a JSON model, and it's like in every instance down here, right? So I mean, very clearly you can see that on this. But so with Gaia specifically, like what I want to point out, it's you can see it here, right? So GPT 4.5, Anthropic, O1, O3, Anthropic, DeepSeek, trained on the Gaia data set. Like you can see, like here's the cutoff, right? Like trained on the Gaia data set, not trained on the Gaia data set, and it's very clear and very apparent. Like that's the cutoff, right? And I mean you can see it in this. This is not like this data doesn't lie. But the other thing, and the most important thing, why I like this Gaia data set is so like the Gaia data set is like very specifically for agents, right? It's like take agent actions, and then if in order for a model to actually pass this benchmark to have a passing score on it, it would need an 80%. 80% is like a high schooler, your like average high schooler of average intelligence. like that is 80% on this Gaia test. And then even with the models, like I mean, whether you want to call it that or not, to me they're flat out training on this data set. Like there's no other answer for it. And even with that, they still are not cracking it. They're still 25 to 30% off, like significant far away. And these are the best models on the market, the absolute best. Like if you're going to like money is no issue, let me throw like 5 GPT 4.5 preview agents at it. Like it still isn't going to meet your needs, your production needs flat out. Like this doesn't lie, right? Like, plain and simple, like ask for someone that actually has utilized agents in a production environment, and they're actually utilizing agents in a production environment. Anyone that's saying anything different, they're blowing smoke. Like they're getting paid by someone. Like that's the bottom line. Like they either own an AI company or they're an influencer and getting bought by an AI company, and those an AI agent company. And those are the only two people that are going to disagree with anything here, and they have big deep pockets for some reason. But so they'll pay to disagree. But so let's dive into like the physics of this, right? Because I like to like not just here's some examples. Let's actually like dive into more reasoning base within this. So transformers are not all we need for agents. Let me give you a few reasons why, grounded in physics. First is based off of information propagation limits or physical constraints. The bottom line is that there's restraints regarding the speed of light. So real computation has physical limitations, including information cannot propagate faster than the speed of light, creating a fundamental latency bottleneck. That's within all models. But then very specifically, when it comes to transformer models, heat dissipation, and energy efficiency. Transformers require huge matrix multiplications, because of their attention computations, which inherently generate heat and consume substantial energy, limiting scalability. Breaking this down into how this applies into like the actual physics equation, it comes down to the quadratic complexity of attention. Attention matrices scale quadratically in sequence length, imposing physical limits on scalability, thus preventing transformers from modeling truly universal or arbitrarily large contexts. Like there's a limit as to the amount of context that a model can understand at one time based off of the attention mechanism, and those are limits built into the attention mechanism, which when you try to scale that out to agents, lead to scaling problems. As we can see, there's no one can overcome this, right? 2, geometric and topological limitations. This is a big one, and like 99.99% of the world doesn't even understand this or even understand to look for this. So transformers, representations, and embeddings live mostly within Euclidean vector spaces. However, natural data structures, language, relationships, biological structures are inherently hierarchical, fractal, or hyperbolic. They're not flat. Flat embeddings fundamentally fail to represent rich, curved, real-world structures efficiently. This leads to limited manifold expressivity. Transformers struggle to represent real-world hierarchical relationships or intrinsic complexity, leading to shallow generalization. Real-world data occupies low-dimensional manifolds embedded in high-dimensional spaces, a subtlety that linear transformations and dot product attention mechanisms oversimplify or overlook entirely. This isn't like me coming up with this argument. This is like Jan LeCun's biggest argument against transformers. Okay, why Jan LeCun has built out like the IJEPA architecture, and it has very specifically layers within it that don't operate within Euclidean space, and it's very specifically built as the opposite of this, is because there are numerous like physicists, people within high level AI that are making these arguments, right? It's not like me just proving this argument into existence. This is like at the highest levels of debate, this is an argument there. 3, lack of resonance and feedback loops, static attention, physics reasoning. Natural systems rely on resonance. Physical intelligence and real-world cognition depend heavily on resonance, frequency interactions, feedback loops, harmonic coupling, and iterative feedback. Transformers lack true iterative resonance and feedback. Attention is largely one shot per step, aside from stacking identical layers. The scientific limitation within this, there's no dynamic harmonic modulation. Intelligence emerges from continuous resonant interactions and self-organizing frequency coupling. Transformers' static attention mechanism without dynamic oscillation, resonance feedback, or natural frequency-based convergence misses critical components of generalization that biological or natural intelligence leverages. So me as an engineer, right? Like me simple brain, I don't need to, I don't necessarily equate this. I don't understand the overall like biology of the brain and how resonance 100% plays into that. But what I do know is that in the 1950s, none of this was known. We didn't know any of this in the 1950s when perceptrons were invented. And then now it's like every biologist in the world will tell you that this is a part of like brain theory. I get people that like reach out to me all the time. I know there's a bunch of people that watch my channel very specifically because of these things. And lots of people know far more about this particular area than I do. Again, I'm an engineer and not a doctor, but I know that any doctor will tell you that like this is a significant part of the equation. And if you're just like, if you want it to be more than just a computer, you need to pay attention to this. Like it's like, which one do you want, right? If you want computers, then you can ignore this. If you want the computer to actually be a level of intelligence, like what you need it to be for agents, for reasoning, you need to pay attention to this, because all of the biologists say that you need to pay attention to this when it comes to that specific area. Then you have memory and recurrence deficiency, which is related to time and causality. So again, another important, like me, simple engineer, right? And then so physics reasoning, time as a physical dimension. In reality, intelligence inherently unfolds over time. Time is not just another dimension to be collapsed. Transformers treat sequences as static tokens. There's no genuine physical notion of time, recurrence, or causal flow built into their architecture. None whatsoever. Time is treated as a token, even if it's included in it at all. Scientific limitations. Inability to model complex causal structures. Transformers rely on positional encodings and artificial static embedding of time. Real-world processes involve stateful memory, recursion, and dynamic causality. Without genuine recurrence or stateful memory, transformers fail to generalize outside narrow static domains. So the bottom line within this entire argument is it comes down to an argument that a lot of people make, which is with regards towards environmental interaction. That in order for anything to be intelligent or for intelligence to occur, there has to be a direct interaction with an environment. And within that, there needs to be a few conditions that need to be met. There needs to be like memory of the interaction, right? That's like what humans are very good at. Like we build experiences in our brains, right? And we build experiences in our brains off of memories and off of memories of interactions with an environment. And that is based off of a time-based sequence. Like time is a very fundamental aspect of our creation of our experiences. Transformers models have none of that, like not a single aspect of that built into them. And then so the argument is and it's like they don't have the sensors or the sensory information necessary to, one, interact with the environment, and then two, even if they are interacting with the environment on some level or some other sensory level in the moment, that interaction gets forgotten, so they don't actually develop experiences based off of it. And then it's not just the interaction, but it's the experience that's like and then in that instance the experience is an abstraction, right? And then so they don't get to abstract the interaction, and then so that would be the missing element. Even if you want to say that they have the first interaction element, they don't have the abstraction to experience element, nowhere in there. And then so within that, so there's a very famous study, if you're not familiar with it, like I call it the passive versus active kitten experiment. And in the 1950s, it was a real experiment where they put two kittens in like a carousel type setup with like mirrors, right? And so it's just all mirrors, and then like they're born into, like, before they're either open, they're placed into this contraption, and then one of the kittens is like they can drive and they can move around in this mirror carousel, and the other one, it can only observe, like it only watches, like it can't, it's like a passenger in the carousel, right? The other one can move and the one can't. And then they do this for like 2 weeks, and then they take the kittens out, and then like the passive kitten, like it didn't learn right. Like its vision, like every aspect of the passive kitten was underdeveloped. Every single aspect of it. Its vision, its ability to speak, its like brain activity, everything, every aspect of it was far more limited than the active kitten, just because of lack of interaction with the environment specifically. And then so in these instances, like these models, that's their environment currently, right? And that's where we're just at with the science of it, and that's just where we're at. And then so 5 is entropic and thermodynamic inefficiencies and entropy management. This is huge, right? So this comes down to physics and thermodynamic constraints. Effective intelligence involves entropy regulation, managing complexity, disorder, and information flow. Transformers tend to inflate entropy through indiscriminate attention, so everything is relevant until it's maxed out, leading to high entropy gradients, redundancy, inefficiency, and difficulty generalizing beyond training data. Bottom line of this, as far as scientific limitations, is that transformers' uniform quadratic attention increases entropy rather than efficiently reducing it. Intelligent generalization requires adaptive, sparse, and dynamic entropy management, with which transformers inherently lack. So, like, gradient descent is built into transformers, and gradient descent is like you cannot remove it from transformers. The transformers does not work if you don't have gradient descent. Gradient descent very specifically leads to thermodynamics physics problems, and that's something that you can't remove from the architecture, right? Our brain, no biological brain has these limitations built into it. It's only a limitation of transformers. Like if you understand the physics of that, the biology of that, all aspects of that, it tells you that like this architecture is not the best, that it's limited because of this, and these lead to very high level physics constraints. As we know more and more, entropy is the key part of this equation, right? And then like transformers are like they leak entropy basically. It's like the bottom line, right? Like so like why can a transformer not ever get 100%? Because they leak entropy. Like there's always a like they're not a closed system, right? There's a leakage in the system no matter what. Even if you put 100% air in the system, air's going to come out of it like a helium balloon, like a leaky helium balloon, right? And then again, it's just inherent within the architecture. Your brain isn't built around that. Like, biological systems don't have those limitations. It's the limitation of Transformers architecture itself. No amount of money or hopium changes that equation. 6. Lack of emergent intelligence dynamics. There's no emergent self-organization. The physics reasoning is that natural intelligence emerges from self-organizing criticality, nonlinear feedback, adaptive interactions, and network resonance. Transformers lack emergent behavior. They're static computational units arranged sequentially, never spontaneously developing adaptive interaction patterns or criticality driven intelligence dynamics. Bottom line here is that there's an absence of emergence principles built into transformers. Transformers don't spontaneously organize, adapt, or develop internal resonance or dynamic attractors. They are predefined architectures optimized externally, thus inherently limited in adaptive generalization. You would then say that there is occurrence of emergence within models. For some people, that would be true, right? That there is emergence occurrences that exist within this architecture, but none of the architecture. The bottom line is that the architecture is not built for emergence reactions to occur. It's built for the exact opposite. But then, even if emergence reactions are occurring, even though it's built for the exact opposite, I would just say, that's chaos theory, right? Like, nature finds a way. Like that's the original Jurassic Park. We knew that 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So that's just how it is. So why are agent-based transformers hopium? The enthusiasm for agent-based transformers or agentic AI built solely around transformers is driven largely by hype and hope rather than grounded scientific practicality. Core problems. Fundamental physics mismatch. Intelligent agents inherently require feedback loops, dynamic resonance, adaptive memory, self-organizing criticality, and spontaneous emergent behavior. All areas where transformers fail structurally. On a structural level, transformers are not built on any level for any of this in mind. Like, they're built on architecture that predated all of this philosophically, and then doesn't incorporate any of these within its dynamics, as I've gone over in other videos. Furthermore, it's imposed rather than emergent agency. Adding external loops around transformers doesn't fix their fundamental structural issues. Agency must emerge internally through self-organizing dynamics, resonance coupling, and spontaneous interaction, not to be externally forced or scripted. Transformers alone don't offer this. And I'll leave a link to this document. You can read through everything that you would want to through here as far as like the conclusion. I've gone through the scientific points here that I want to go through. And then so bottom line overall, there's physics constraints. People have been at it for 3 years, even with gaming the benchmarks, where here there's nothing else that changes that equation. And then trillions of dollars, every corporation on the planet, every government on the planet has thrown everything in the kitchen sink at this problem, and it's not moving the benchmarks. So like, there's nothing that's going to change. Like, there's not a magic secret that's going to be invented 2 years from now that wasn't thought of in this previous 2 years, because if it existed, they would have already found it. And so it's the bottom line of this equation. The bottom line is, if you want agents, it definitely does exist, and it can exist. It's not going to come out of Transformers for all the reasons that I've stated in this video. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.